Today in this lab, we are going to focus on two systems, endocrine system and introduction to the cardiovascular system. We all know that the endocrine system uses hormones to regulate body functions which are released directly into the bloodstream. Because the hormones travel through the blood, the endocrine system works closely with the cardiovascular system. As we move through the lab, make sure you pay attention to glands location, tissue organization, and the hormone produced from each glands and their functions. Since these are the key for lab identification and exam, we will start the endocrine glands and then connect those concepts to that basic structure and role of the cardiovascular system. So, first we're going to go over the different endocrine glands. For the lecture, we have to know all of them and their functions. Lab specifically, we look at that some of the structures and especially histology microscopic slides. We study for that. For the reason, we're going to study pituitary gland. So we're going to explain few of them. I will explain. So pituitary gland stays in this region. This is it. Then this one is a pineal gland, another endocrine gland. Then pituitary gland is controlled by hypothalamus. Everything is in this portion in the brain. So here the butterfly shaped structure over here look like this one. That is a thyroid gland. The posterior view, if you look at that, you can see 4 parathyroid glands. Then thymus. Inferior to that one, you can see 2 triangular shaped structure on the top of the kidney, which is adrenal glands. Here you can see that the pancreas, this portion, head of the pancreas, body and tail portion. Female uterus, closer to that is ovaries. Male testes. So each one produces different hormones. We will study those details in the lecture PowerPoint. This endocrine glands, part of the endocrine system, they have a glands, ductless glands that secrete hormones directly into bloodstream. We talk about each glands produce specific hormones that act on target tissues which matches receptors. So this hypothalamus, in this area over here, hypothalamus, link the nervous and endocrine system and control the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is this gland that has a pituitary anterior and posterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary produce hormone such as growth hormone, thyroid-stimulating hormone, Then another one is the adrenocorticotropic hormone. Then follicular-stimulating hormone, FSH. Then utilizing hormone, and prolactin. Okay, these are the hormones produced from anterior pituitary. So in the posterior pituitary, they produce two hormones, which is the antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. So these are all anterior pituitary. This is a posterior pituitary gland. Produce two hormones. Oxytocin. So make sure you remember these things. That's very important. Then thyroid gland, this is a butterfly shaped structure in that thoracic, this area above that trachea. They produce thyroxine and triiodothyronine. Those are the two things is produced from here. The main is look like this, butterfly is enlarging here. This is the one. In the posterior view, you see that four pearl-like structure, which is the parathyroid glands. Then you can see over here thymus. This one also endocrine gland. So it's located in this mediastinum region above the heart. The heart should be over here. So above the heart, thymus secrete hormones such as thymosin. This main function of that development and maturation of T cells, T lymphocytes. That's the main important cells in that immune system. This thymus is active in infancy and childhood and gradually decrease in size after puberty. The particular process, the decrease in size, we called involution. Then this one is adrenal gland, is a pair about the kidney, but adrenal glands. They actually produce cortisol, aldosterone, and androgen. This one produced from that, if you look at that, inside the adrenal cortex, there is a two regions. This is a cortex, adrenal cortex. This is the medulla. Adrenal cortex is the one produce all these things. Adrenal medulla produce epinephrine and norepinephrine. Okay, this one by medulla, adrenal medulla. Then this structure over here, one, that's a pancreas. Pancreas is head region, body portion, and tail portion. So this particular gland, they can act like a exocrine gland and endocrine gland. We study exocrine in ANP1. Any glands, if you say exocrine, for example, salivary gland, sebaceous gland, which is oil gland, they have ducts. If you see glands with the ducts, if anything they produce over here, go through the ducts, release into that outside. This endocrine glands, other hand, they have patches of cells. These cells produce some secretions. They release into bloodstream. The blood vessels carry that into different places. It doesn't have a ducts to carry to wherever it needs to go. The pancreas, for example, they are endocrine and exocrine gland. Since we are studying here endocrine purpose, we mainly focus on that one. They produce insulin. You all heard about insulin before. Insulin and glucagon. They control that sugar level in the bloodstream. If your sugar level is too much, for example, you eat a lot of carb, so your sugar level in your blood going to increase. So in that case, particular time, insulin is produced. Insulin take those sugar and deposit it in the cells. Sometimes you are fasting or you don't have enough carbohydrate in the bloodstream. So produce glucagon by pancreas. So the stored sugar in our cells, take it back and release into the bloodstream, so you get sugar. So that is then like I said, this can be act as a exocrine gland. So when we study about the digestive system, we're going to go over that more detail. They produce pancreatic juice. The pancreatic juice will carried by ducts and release into that small intestine, duodenum. Then pancreas we go over. Then what? Gonads. If you're female, they have ovaries. In the male, they have testes. Ovaries which produce estrogen. Testes we produce testosterone. Okay, so ovaries estrogen and progesterone, male testes testosterone. These are the different glands, endocrine glands, and what they produce. So make sure you write it down. Those things is very important. If you have any questions, please let me know. Read about it. Then this hypothalamus produces some of those inhibitory or stimulatory hormones that helps to produce controlling that pituitary gland. The hypothalamus is a region of the brain that serves as a link between the nervous system and endocrine system. Hypothalamus is, this brain part, which is a part of that nervous system. So they're mainly controlling and monitoring conditions such as body temperature, blood nutrient level, hormone level, and it also controls the activity of pituitary gland. Also, hypothalamus produces releasing and inhibitory hormones that regulate anterior pituitary. This portion controlled by that inhibitory or stimulating hormones. So also what the hypothalamus they do, they produce antidiuretic hormone. Oxytocin, which is stored in that posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary doesn't produce that. These two hormones produced by hypothalamus but stored in that posterior pituitary. But if you look at anterior pituitary, that another name for anterior pituitary, maybe your books say this way. Adrenal hypophyseal. Adrenal hypophyseal. Physeal. So this anterior pituitary, the tissue is actually granular tissue, epithelial tissue, gland. So what they produce, their list of hormones, they produce growth hormone, thyroid-stimulating hormone, I wrote it in the other slide previously, adrenocorticotropic hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicular-stimulating hormone, make sure you write the full name, utilizing hormone, LH, and prolactin. So make sure you write it down each one. These are produced by what? They release from that anterior pituitary and is controlled by hypothalamus. Hypothalamus controlling this by hypophyseal portal system. There is a portal system, the capillaries. System. Then if you look at that posterior pituitary, another name we called neurohypophysis. because it's a nerve cells. Neuro, hypo, this is a neural tissue. Like I mentioned earlier, they don't produce any hormones, but it store these two hormones in this region. But this is released by hypothalamus. So that is the main thing about this histology. When you look at that, you see these cells, pituitary gland. This one over here, the lighter, this is a posterior pituitary. This one, this anterior pituitary. There are different types of cells to produce these hormones. We talking about thyroid gland. That is a part of endocrine glands. Located, we talk about located anterior to that trachea. This trachea is going like this. Anterior to that one is a butterfly shaped structure. The posterior you see parafollicular cells. So inside, if you look at the histology, this is the way it's going to be look like. So this thyroid histologically is very unique because it's composed of numerous spherical structures called follicle. You can see bunch of them here. Each one. These are called follicle. Around this follicle, these cells, so over here, around that is a follicular cells. In between, you see that parafollicular cells. These are parafollicular cells. So over here, those are parafollicular cells. They are, if you look at this follicular cells, they are simple cuboidal epithelial cells. What do you mean simple cuboidal? Simple cube-shaped structure. Cube-shaped structure. Okay, it's a little bit cube-shaped structure. So that is, you see around this the spherical structure. That's the follicular cells. They're filled with the colloid. That's the one somewhere here. Colloid. Because these cells are producing that hormones, which is T3 and T4 hormones. They're released into that inside the follicle. So they produce, like I said, that commonly we called some thyroxine. You heard about thyroxine. That is T4. Another one, T3. So that's a tri, three of them. Tri, what is the iodothyronine? Okay, so triiodothyronine, T3. So this colloid contain thyroglobulin. So they helps to store this thyroid hormone. So that makes something. Makes a thyroid gland or thyroid the only endocrine gland that stores large amount of hormone extracellularly. That means outside the cell. They produce something, they keep it inside that follicle. This is then between this follicle, this you see the parafollicular cells. The other way is called C cells. Over here you can see they are both the same thing, C cells or parafollicular cells. They secrete what they do, they lower blood calcium level. Calcium level lowered by this. Okay. So it's mainly, you see, when you look at the slide, this is the way you see pink staining, colloid, and simple cuboid epithelial cells in the around that follicle. So you can see that 400x magnification, higher magnification, you can see the clusters bigger, enlarging, magnifying. So these lighter patches is a part of that endocrine gland. These all are part of the exocrine gland, acinic cells. These are the islets of longer hands. They produce, they have alpha and beta cells. They produce insulin and glucagon. And delta cells which produce that somatostatin. So here, this is again pancreas, the glands. This is a part ducts. You can see that's because it's exocrine gland also. So here, this is a part of that exocrine. This is a part of the endocrine. You can see different types of cells inside the endocrine gland. Alpha cells, and you can see beta cells. Then whatever they're releasing, they release into the bloodstream. Blood will go take it to that different places. Thank you for watching Science with Dr. A. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions or concerns. I would happy to help. Study it till it sticks.